Hello, America. How are you? Hope you people are doing well. Myself, Naman Verma from India. Today, I'm gonna reacting on a video of the new Statesman channel. So do subscribe this channel and subscribe me too, and press the bell icon for more updates. And if you people are not following me on Instagram and Facebook yet, so please follow me on my social media handles. The links are in the description box. So visit the description and follow me for dancing and acting related content. So the title of today's video is 2025, the year of the war economy. So definitely you people know, and we also know the fact that this is an era of an economic war and global affairs. So let's start the video and then discuss the matter later in this video. So without any delay, let's get started.
Let's talk about Russia.
Oh,
It is
Russia.
remarkably entering its third year of conflict with Ukraine. I don't think any of us foresaw that such a conflict would be going on for quite so long and be so devastating in its impact. In December, Wolfgang, Vladimir Putin approved record defense spending, I think a third of Russia's budget. How long can this go on for?
It's finite, but we don't know how long it can go on for. What he's done, not foreseen in the West, and the West miscalculated on a number of things, especially the economic things. He moved to a war economy, and if you recall, in the Second World War, there were similar effects, and there was sort of Keynesian demand push, and the economy grows for a period of time. It is not sustainable,
for sure.
Of course not. But from a strategic point of view, it doesn't matter whether it's sustainable, because it only needs to be sustained until victory or until some kind of moment when the war ends.
Yeah,
that's why this is serious. It's also serious because once you are in this war economy, I think we're talking about 6% of defense spending of GDP. That's
nothing else.
Amount. Once you're in this position, you're obviously you're producing so many weapons that
want
you
to
might
accept
use it, after the war in other areas. So there's still Georgia. He could
very sadful.
Still, obviously, NATO. And NATO fears that he may be ready in 2030 to attack NATO. If I personally not sure that this is his plan, but I don't think anyone should or can think ahead that far. When he has this sort of capacity, there's a certain danger, and it means also that we have now to step up our defense spending, and NATO is already discussing a 3% NATO defense spending target among its members. So we are looking at this does have a big effect. Now there's strains in the Russian economy. This is no question. I mean these shifts are big, but he is he's a dictator. He's not what he does is something we cannot do. And this is why we cannot sort of measure him with our sort of
there's no any
things. He has
democracy
a much higher
in Russia.
As societies.
You talk about but what is it like for Russian people inside the country? Because I think Bloomberg reported at the end of November that Russia may soon have to choose between guns and butter.
Yeah, I think it's not quite as extreme.
Yeah,
I think we've seen, if you sort of look at pictures from the sort of Moscow shopping streets,
very sad for the people, local people.
Western goods are available despite the sanctions, and there's no shortage of iPhones. There's no shortage of German cars either. They come the stuff comes through Kazakhstan and other Asian republics. It's very difficult to close a country off, certainly the size of the size of Russia, because the Eurasian continent is vast, and Russia occupies a vast space inside of it. And there are many routes, and it's basically in the center of it. It borders China, it borders Mongolia, it borders various
biggest nation of the whole world.
It goes all the way to the Black Sea and borders NATO, Finland and Ukraine. So you see, this is going to be very, very difficult to close it off. And we have tried this through the banking channels, but the banking channels, our sanctions were not complete. We exempted certain banks because we were still doing business with Russia. And the West was, and this is, I think, where it went wrong. Had the West done a complete embargo, I mean, in theory, it would have had a huge impact. But the West didn't, and we just did what was least damaging to us. And several Western countries, especially East European countries, were still depending on Russian gas, so that was exempted. The Hungarians didn't want to go along with the oil sanctions, so it became very difficult to actually. The Germans had their special deals with Russia, so everybody had their own things. So we got a minimum thing, so we could sanction Putin himself and his various oligarchs. But we were not able to actually build a coherent set of Western sanctions, and that therefore it didn't work.
Sure.
And I think the war is ending. But
you do?
But yeah, I do believe it's.
You don't
end.
think
this would be my prediction if I made one sort of daring prediction in 25. The war will end. And
how will it end?
And it will end through. Quite simply,
this year.
Donald Trump, he can't end it in 24 hours. That was the famous promise he made. But he, because the US is such a vast contributor to Ukraine, and if he simply stops this, he can insist on freezing the conflict. And his people already outlined the kind of deal. I wouldn't call it a peace deal, but it's kind of an armistice type arrangement where the current battle lines would become a kind of frontier. There would be a demilitarized zone on both sides, heavily guarded by the West. So there would be Western troops, not American troops, but probably, and there's already talk about France and Poland already talked about sending 40,000 troops as part of a peace mission. Ukraine would not become a member of NATO for a certain number of years. And then there will be lots of other obstacles. For example, the Russian reserves, Russia want the money back. Russia
for sure.
Sanctions to end, and it will be a difficult package. So I'm not saying this is going to be easily done. And obviously, without Russia, it cannot be done. Trump alone cannot enforce this, but he can enforce the Ukrainian readiness to strike a deal. And we already heard Zelensky offering, a partition of his country. He's still insisting on NATO membership. I don't think that can happen, but it's a beginning. It's an opening bargain and an opening offer. Russia has also made offers. I think Putin has an interest in cutting a deal because this economy is a problem for Russians. And while it can continue for a little while longer,
to be a part
I'm not sure where Russia
NATO,
will be in a year's
Ukraine
time
to be a part
or
of
2 years'
NATO.
time. There may be economic strains, and things can end pretty quickly if you are a dictator.
Katie, do you share that prediction from Wolfgang that we will see an end to the Ukraine conflict in 2025?
I think it's likely we will see a halt.
Ukraine conflict,
I think along
maybe
the lines Wolfgang outlines of some sort of a freeze is certainly possible. I think the really big questions at this stage here are those security guarantees. I think it's very clear the United States, particularly under Donald Trump, wants nothing whatsoever to do with that. There is no question of US troops being on the ground. But when you take into account European politics, my question would be how resilient such an agreement or such a deployment would be likely to be. Is it likely that a future French president would keep French troops policing a demilitarized zone in Ukraine, for instance? I think, the prospect of NATO membership seems to be slipping away. I think if European and American diplomats were talking candidly, there really is not a great deal of interest in that happening. That you have seen some suggestions here that perhaps that could be deferred. So you could have an arrangement where that question is just set aside for 10 years or for 15 years. But I think there's really very little chance. And I think there is an understanding in Kyiv that is moving beyond the bounds of what's realistic. But then it's really a question of which countries are prepared to contribute troops, and how would you police a demilitarized zone like that? It worked on the Korean Peninsula. South Korea, latest attempt at martial law notwithstanding, was then able to develop into a very wealthy democracy, but that's because it had US security guarantees. It's because it has US troops still there, based in South Korea. So for Ukraine to succeed, to prosper, to survive as a free, independent state, it needs some sort of very credible security guarantees. And I think, that is going to be a real test over the next 12 months is, okay, who is prepared
for sure.
To contribute those troops, and what sort of commitment are they prepared to make? Because we've also seen playing out in Georgia in recent weeks, I think if you're Russia and you look at that, you might think, yes, sure, we'll take a break. We can pause this along these lines. We will reconstitute our own army. We've already shifted the economy onto this war footing, so we will rebuild our strength. And then in 3 to 5 years, either the conflict unfreezes and we push ahead again, or we're able to bring Ukraine back into our orbit through political means. So I think even if Russia does agree to a pause, we shouldn't confuse that with any sense that Russia is thereby abandoning its objectives here. And the second question that I would just insert into this is how quickly Vladimir Putin will feel he needs to bring this to an end, because he feels right now, or at least we understand, we believe that he assesses, his troops are on the front foot. They are, potentially in range of breakthroughs in several points in the east. And if they can, for instance, capture Pokrovsk, a city I visited, reported from last year, it is a straight shot down the major highway from there to Dnipropetrovsk, which is a very important Ukrainian industrial center. So you can also see, the temptation from Putin's side to just push a bit further. If he can have a major push over the next 6 to 9 months, perhaps Dnipropetrovsk is within range. And then that's also the feature of Ukraine's manufacturing industry that he has control over. He, I think, has every incentive, given that Donald Trump has advertised so extensively his determination to pull out of this and to stop supporting Ukraine, to push as far as he can now to really cripple a future Ukrainian state and to really jeopardize the political stability there.
That's pretty sobering for the Ukrainian people.
Yeah, for sure. So this is the video. So you people tell me your perception on this topic, on this issue. This is a major issue, and I'll say this is a major issue for the whole humanity on the planet. Why? Because you see, there is war going on between Russia and Ukraine, between Israel and Palestine, and so like soldiers who fought for their nations have lost their lives. Their lives are not important? The life of a soldier is as important as a normal citizen of any nation. Clear? And as I said earlier in this video, that this is the war of ego. Let's see whose ego will win. And the winning of ego means the loss of the whole society, of the whole humanity. It costs whole humanity, actually. So Trump is clear-cut, and he definitely do something for to end this war in 2025 within 12 months. So yeah, the West is supplying weapons to Ukraine. I think the war is not becoming an end of the war yet. 3 years have been passed, and no result. There is no any result. I can say, like, with my opinion, this is actually my opinion, this is the USSR civil war. Actually, if you see the situation technically, then you will get my point. So this is basically a civil war inside the USSR. Today's Russia, you can say, if you, whenever you say the word USSR, so USSR means the today's Ukraine and so many 15 countries together plus the present Russia is equals to USSR. So basically there is, if you consider all the staggered nations, 13 or 14 staggered fragmented nations together with Russia, then it is USSR, which is as it is in the initial days of an era. So this is the civil war of USSR. But you can see Ukraine, the thinking pattern of Ukraine is just opposite to the thinking pattern of Vladimir Putin or Russia, you can say. Yeah, definitely there's one issue that Russia has no democracy. America is a democracy. India is definitely a democracy. But Russia is not a democracy. So democracy, I can say there definitely there are pros and cons of each and every situation. Yeah, democracy also has some cons, but having more pros as compared to the dictatorship. Dictatorship has more cons as compared to the pros. So the difference is just a ratio. Maybe I can say like the pros and cons ratio of democracy, I will mark it as 70-30, and dictatorship just reverse 30-70. No, not 30-70. I can say it's 10-90. So this is right. So this is the video. You people tell me your perception also. Your perception matters a lot, as I said earlier in the previous videos. So do subscribe my channel for the more content like this, and please tell me in the comment section, who do you support the most, the Republicans and the Democrats, the two biggest parties of the US nation. So please tell me in the comment section, and stay fit, stay healthy, and tell me some news about the HMPV virus in US. And till then, take care. Bye bye. Sri Naman Verma signing.